We also do know that the West African Examination Council is starting with the WAEC for over 313,000 or 375,000, depends on which of the figures you want to take. But we generally do know that the first batch of the free SHS system, they are taking their WAEC examinations starting today, and they are doing this in a period of coronavirus, but observing the needed protocols. So we'll also get onto the stream and also get to speak to officials on the subject. Well, we have to take, and Peter has already joined us. Peter Anti is with the Institute for Education Studies, and IFES, we do know, has been doing a lot of research on this, as well as what it means within this period for schools to either keep open or go through the examination. Peter, good morning. It's a good thing we're speaking to you. Before we get to the subject of WAEC and how the students are in a good place to start, this special school we have in Savelugu has some difficulties, but generally, how can we put this into perspective, the mainstream schools and the special schools within this period of coronavirus?
All right, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. Yes, if you follow global education trends, you would realize that for some time now, we've been talking about inclusive education. Inclusivity has been a key word in our educational system for global monitoring. And it's interesting that when it comes to our country, we do not seem to pay much attention to inclusivity in terms of allowing students from different backgrounds with different challenges assessing complete education. So if you see if you look at one of the reports that have been released this year, I think this month, they talk about all means all. All means all means that irrespective of whoever you are, if we are saying that we are ensuring that everybody accesses quality and equitable education by 2030, it means everybody. It doesn't mean some group of people. It doesn't mean those who are mentally fit. It doesn't mean those who are physically fit. It means everybody. And that is something that as a country, we have to pay attention to. I admit that we seem to have an inclusive policy that has been worked on, I think, for the over the it was released somewhere 2013, 2014, if my memory serves me right. But then we have not been able to implement the things in those in that document forcefully. And that is why you come to our country and you see that schools that are supposed to serve students that are having challenges do not seem to get the requisite attention that they need to get. And we need to say this forcefully, that especially in a period of pandemic, we have to see how we are treating these schools and how best we'll be able to lift them up in order that they will get the kind of quality education that we so much desire.
And the reason why we're having this conversation is that the Savelugu school is just one of the several special schools that we have. But if we want to mainstream this conversation, it means that we need to broaden it. How do we move from the normal ones and then say that the special attention also for these special schools need to be given within these times?
Well, the first thing that we have to note is that there should be, I am not sure if there is a special division of the Ghana Education Service or the Ministry of Education that solely deals with these special schools, like we are doing now with the Technical and Vocational Institutes. If you look at the new pre-tertiary bill that is being discussed in the system, there's going to be a deputy director in charge of this kind of tertiary and vocational education. We can do same for the special school, so that at the national level, we will have somebody who oversees these things. I'm saying this, I'm not privy to whether there's somebody there. And if there's somebody there, then it means that that person is actually not doing a good job, and we have to look at his job description again. So that is something that we need to do. If it gets that national attention, then we would note that that person will be able to fight for budget allocation for these schools and then it will streamline, and these schools will get the needed attention and recognition that we want. We cannot, in 2020, sit down and see the deterioration of these schools that are supposed to serve these kids who, sometimes by no fault of theirs, are into these special conditions.
But if we have to serve them, it also means that there needs to be the equity, and it has to be from the top to the bottom as well. I'm talking about the special schools. Where do we start? How do we do the recognition and the allocations?
Yeah, I think for the top, you would realize that even at the tertiary institutions, these students are given special attention especially in most of our tertiary institutions. So I think the focus should be at the down there. We should have a special budget allocated to these particular schools and provide them with the needed infrastructure. They are not many. That is something that I don't seem to understand, because they are not that much. And if you are able to raise school buildings across the length and breadth of the country for our normal schools, I don't know why it's difficult for us to build a state-of-the-art building for these special schools and equip the teachers and the authorities in these schools to deliver education to these particular kids. I still cannot understand why we've not been able to do that. It just simply means that we have not given them the requisite attention. And as I've indicated earlier on, for the past 3-4 years, the Global Education Funds, what have we been talking about is inclusivity. And if that is what we want to achieve, then it means that as a country, we are really lagging behind.
Okay. And I also do know that your institution, that the Institute for Education Studies, has been doing some great work recently. You decided to track the reopening of schools, the views of teachers and students within this period of the pandemic. And as we envelope this into the bigger picture, what did you find out about the concerns, the perception, and the general atmosphere for students and teachers within the reopening within the pandemic?
Yeah, we are doing series of studies. Of course, we can say that Ghana, for example, have not experienced a pandemic before. So we dubbed a research project as Education in the Midst of a Pandemic. And we are doing series of studies. This is the second report that we have released. And we first looked at whether schools should be reopened, and we published the report. The second report looked at, we tracked the provisions of the PPEs and the mood of the students and the teachers as to whether they still would wish that the schools were opened or not. And we have seen that some of the schools in certain districts are still lacking these PPEs. We mentioned the districts in the reports, but one of the things that was profound in our findings was that the students seems to want to complete the education. This is a point that most people seems to ignore. And we realized that almost over 70% of the students that we spoke to, and of course we spoke to over 700 students across 80 districts in 13 regions in Ghana. And we realized that most of them would want to finish the education and then leave and know what lies ahead of them. They would not want the schools to be closed down and then go and sit home without knowing what to do next. And they said this by giving two major reasons were prominent in there. One, as I've indicated, they wanted to finish their school and leave. And the second one was that some of them also indicated that their parents have already bought their forms for them. They are waiting results form that are made available for students by the universities and tertiary institutions. And so they see no point in asking them to go and then stay in the house without writing the exams. So far as that initiative has been taken, they need to write the exams and know the way forward. But then we also realized that psychologically they would need to be talked to. So we made a profound statement that the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service should, as a matter of urgency within this week, because they are starting the exams this week, we were suggesting to the Ministry and Ghana Education Service to allow counselors and psychologists to go through the schools and talk to them, advise them. Of course, we know that it's going to be difficult for the Ghana Education Service to employ counselors across the length and breadth of the country to do that. So we suggest that the Ghana Education Service should issue a directive to all school authorities that they should allow their counselors in the schools to address the students before they write the exams. So within this week, we expect this to be carried out. Teachers in the schools should address the students, encourage them, talk to them, let them see the need for them to have a stable mind to write the exam. That's something that we owe these students, and we have to do it as early as possible.
Now, the students and the safety would always be on their mind. And I guess that's why you recommend the provision of the counseling services for them. What should be available? What did you find out should be available for the stakeholders outside these campuses? We're talking the parents and then the relevant bodies that also tend to deal with the schools.
Yes, so there are almost over 22% of the respondents that indicated that they have still not received the full complement. And when you say the full complement, you are saying that they might have the Veronica buckets, they might have some amount of nose masks, but they will not have the thermometer guns. Or some have the thermometer guns, they don't have enough Veronica buckets, or they don't have enough nose masks. So when you say full complement, it means that in that school, they might have one or two of these things, but they don't have everything. And we have listed those districts, some of them, I think Akumfi district is one of them. I don't have the report rightly here. Akumfi district is one of them. Kansina, Nankana, Awutu, Senya, and some of the districts we have indicated them. Of course, we did not provide the schools for good reason, because we respected the anonymity and then the confidentiality of our respondents. So, but we have given an idea of where the districts are. So the Ministry of Education should, as a matter of urgency, visit these schools and provide them. We also said that they should do an audit, because it seems that some of these things were sent actually to the field, but they have found their way somewhere. So they should do an audit as early as possible to identify these gaps and provide for them. So for us, we are insisting that these students stay in school and finish their exams. We should make available the needed things that they have to. And we're also thinking that parents who communicate to their kids on phone should, at this moment in time, talk to them. They should cite them. They should advise them. They should continue to encourage them so that they would get the clear mind to write the exams.
Indicate that at least 69.3% of these students and teachers wanted schools to be reopened in the first perspective. But you stay on Zoom. We've been joined on the line by the Deputy PR Boss for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Obing-Fosu. Thank you for joining us. Now, we know that WASSCE is starting the examinations today for the students in senior high school. Please, how many students are participating in the WASSCE this year?
All right, good morning, my brother, and then good morning to your listeners. Yes, from the figures given by WASSCE, we are expecting to have 737 students write the exam this morning. As I speak to you now, I am on the campus of Fafraha Community Senior High School, where students are preparing. So supervision and monitoring have started, and I'm here. I'm on campus now. So preparation is going on because it is not a core subject. Most of the students that are taking the practicals are also prepared and ready and are taking the exams this morning.
Okay. So the 375,000 students, does it include those from private senior high schools?
The figure I gave you is the figure from WASSCE.
I understand that.
If I get your question right, you wanted to know if it includes the private students, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, and I'm saying that yes, it is right. It includes everybody who is sitting for the exam, inclusive of the free SHS public school students as well.
Okay, so how many students who are benefiting from free senior high school education across the public schools are sitting?
So we are looking at around over 313,000 students from the public schools. That is under the free SHS program.
Okay. Now there's an important component of all this, making sure we do this under strict adherence to social distancing protocols and other COVID-19 protocols. How are these being maintained or implemented?
Okay, so as I said earlier, if you've observed the way WASSCE conducts the exams over the period, when we talk about social distancing, it is something that has been part of our exam setting. That is, in this case, people are well spaced up, people are arranged such that they don't get opportunity to eavesdrop or stretch and then, as somebody said, peep on other people's examination papers. But what we are going to ensure now is that because of COVID, if there is a need to further separate the districts and arrange it such that there will be no contact, there will be no encounter among the students, we're going to ensure that. For the places I've been to and I've visited their halls, I think they've done that. They've done that. They've reduced the number of students in the hall, and some are even using the classrooms. They have arranged all the desks in the classrooms as well. So the protocols have been observed here. As I entered the school, while I was talking to you, I needed to pause because I was going through the normal routine checks, taking my temperature, and I was being asked to wash my hands before I can even get out from my car. So I believe everything is under control. They are ensuring the protocols have been observed.
Well, I have one more question for you, but just let me go back to Mr. Ante. Now, Mr. Ante, you had Mr. Kwesi Obingfosu, the Deputy PR Boss for the Ministry of Education. What do you say to this? It falls in line with your observations, right?
Yeah. I think this morning I have not even stepped out, so I don't know what is happening on various campuses. But for the past 2 weeks that we were on the ground, as I said, some of the schools seems to have some of these PPEs. Some do not actually have. We are yet to start monitoring the exams and see the provision of the of adherence to the health protocol so that we can speak to it. So if he is on the ground and he's saying this is what he's found out, I would defer to him for now.
But this is good. The way we're having this trickling in, that we have to reopen schools, and so even the examinations being conducted within the structure of the COVID-19 protocols sends a good signal, doesn't it?
Yes, and that is the motivation of us at the Institute for Education Studies. That at least, you see, I think this position some people did not appreciate, but maybe posterity will be the best judge. We have kept students in school for 3 years. They were just about a few weeks to write the exams, and then we were hit by a pandemic, and we asked them to go home. Now, at a point in time, we saw globally that schools, others were reopening with different standards, and they had protocols available for them to go in. Now we adopted same, and then we reopened school partially for graduating students. Now, if along the way there have been challenges, the two issues that come out is, should we close the schools, or we manage these challenges so that they write their exams and then they leave campuses? Now, this is a critical decision that needed to be taken. And if some of us supported the continuous stay of students on campus, it's just simply because you cannot psychologically torture students, bring them on campus, and then ask them to go back without them knowing when they would come back and write the exams. It was something that was difficult for us to pick. And that is why when we went to the field and we saw that almost 70% and over of the students were eager to write their exams, we said, yes, this is what should actually happen. And we are hoping that we will have an event-free examination. The students will be able to write their exams and leave campus. Then we know what to do with the rest of the students and the rest of the academic year. But so far as that there's time, we should encourage the students to write their exams. I think that is something that we as I said, we owe them, and we hope that they will sail through successfully. At least.
Mr. Obingfosu, you're still on the line.
I'm here.
Yeah, great. So, good thing so far. There's a little bit of controversy that we need to clarify, though. I don't know whether maybe you can provide it or it has come to your attention. It's about the numbers. The numbers, and that incrementally will mean that we haven't gotten the incrementals based on what the argument is for why we needed free SHS for the first batch. it looks like the number, what's the percentage of the increment from those that have not benefited and so sat for the 2019 WASSCE?
Okay, so I've followed that argument over the weekend. That is yesterday when it started on the various social media portals. But if you observe the figures, this is the first batch of the phrase teachers. And don't forget, my brother, phrase teachers was characterized by several theories from so many people that didn't believe in the implementation of this policy. So that affected the first batch of enrollment. That notwithstanding, we were able to enroll students that have not gotten the opportunity to attend school for so many years. So what happened for the first batch? That I have the figures. I'm using my phone. I'm doing monitoring. I have the figures on my phone. So I may not be able to speak to the figures. But what I can tell you is that if you follow the kind of enrollment figures that we had, we were not going to get anything different from what was happening from the previous years. The additional figures will come from those who were enrolling but didn't get opportunity as at that time. And it was the first time the program was being rolled out. People didn't even believe in the program as being a feasible one, as going to be a success. So if you look at the first batch of the phrase teachers, the enrollment figures were a little around 10,000 or so from the previous year. That is 2019 enrollment. So there was an increment all the same, but not as astronomical as the previous or the following year. If you compare the second batch and the third batch, there you will see the actual increase in figures percentage-wise. So the first year was characterized by a lot of theories and sentiments. So you can understand why we couldn't record the big difference with respect to percentage. But if you compare the figures to the years that follow, there you will see when people believed in the policy, when people realized that the policy had come to stay, the policy is producing results, people have actually benefited for a whole year without any hits. People have gone through and have not paid a dime. So now it is true. It is for real. So let's get ourselves involved. There you see the astronomical increase in numbers. There you see people partaking, people releasing their children to go for the phrase teachers. So we can talk about the figures later. I don't have the figures now, but these are the reasons that contributed to the numbers we saw for the first, that is those who are writing now. Okay.
So, Mr. Obinfosu, you're saying that from 2021, 2022, the figures then will reflect the true state of its embracement, right?
Sure. The figures are already out there, so you can check.
All right. Okay.
If I should get off the phone, if I was in the car, I would have taken the laptop and then I will let you have the figures. Because if you are talking about, we have 1.2 million students in school now, as compared to 800,000 for the previous year. Did you understand?
Yes.
So we have an increase of over 400,000, and these numbers are spread across the various years of enrollment figures. So from the 2021, 2022, you have figures far above the 275 we are talking about now. We are talking about figures in the region of 400,000 for the 2 years, which you can just take a look and then give to listeners. So the actual figures, that astronomical increase in numbers for our SHS students, you can see it from the second year of phrase teachers, and then the third year, that is those who are in first year and those who are in second year. It is clearly there, clearly stated there, clearly written. It stands out for you to see that those figures were actually on the rise as compared to the first batch of phrase teachers, which recorded some increase, but not as huge as we all expected.
Well, my good friend, thank you for helping us do the discussions this morning. Very, very much received. Kwesi Obinfosu is the Deputy PR Head for the Ministry of Education, helping us there. And also early on, we had Peter Ante, who works with the Institute for Education Studies